something reportedly happened behind closed palace doors that could have created a major problem for the future of the monarchy. King Charles was allegedly preparing to approve a permanent arrangement that would give Queen Camilla control of one of the crown's most symbolically important residences. But before the king could sign the paperwork, Prince William stepped in. According to the story, he didn't simply ask his father to reconsider, he demanded that the decision go through a formal vote. That intervention turned what appeared to be a private family decision into a much bigger question about crown property, royal authority, and what one monarch can actually promise on behalf of the next. Charles reportedly believed the residence would give Camilla something she had wanted for years: security. Even after becoming queen consort, her position remained closely connected to Charles himself. So, according to the story, Charles wanted to eliminate that uncertainty. His idea was to give Camilla permanent control of the residence. To Charles, this wasn't simply about a house, it was about sending a message that Camilla wasn't temporary and that she was a permanent part of the monarchy he had built. But William reportedly saw the situation very differently. He believed that an official crown residence shouldn't be permanently assigned through a private promise because the consequences wouldn't end with Charles. Future monarchs could inherit the arrangement, along with the financial responsibilities attached to it, including security, staffing, maintenance, and renovations. The story then introduces an alleged document connected to the late Queen Elizabeth II. Princess Anne had supposedly preserved a written instruction concerning official royal residences. The message was reportedly clear. Crown residences were not supposed to become rewards for personal loyalty or private family promises. A privately owned royal property could potentially be inherited or transferred, but an official residence existed to serve the institution. According to the story, Elizabeth was concerned that personal promises could eventually become permanent public obligations. That concern supposedly became critical once William learned about the document. Anne reportedly showed William the memorandum, including a handwritten instruction saying that a permanent reassignment should not happen without consultation and recorded approval. William allegedly took the document directly to Charles. Charles was reportedly still standing beside the unsigned authorization when William entered the room. The confrontation wasn't described as loud. Instead, the tension came from the fact that William was refusing to allow the paperwork to move forward. Charles reportedly believed his authority as king should settle the issue, while William believed his responsibility as future king required him to challenge it. Charles saw William's intervention as a challenge to his authority, while William saw silence as something potentially worse because if he allowed the arrangement to go through, he would eventually inherit its consequences. Then Camilla reportedly entered the confrontation. She allegedly asked William whether, after years of royal service, she had earned nothing. William's answer was carefully framed. He wasn't questioning her service. He was questioning whether service could give someone personal ownership over an official crown residence. To Camilla, however, that distinction was painful because the residence represented something deeper: security. With William refusing to allow the original transfer, Charles reportedly agreed to send the proposal to the Royal Estates Council. The private disagreement had now become institutional. The council had to consider whether Camilla could receive permanent control or whether the residence needed to remain fully attached to the crown. Charles reportedly supported an arrangement that would give Camilla long-term security, while William and Anne opposed language suggesting permanent personal control. Other members looked for a compromise. Then another issue reportedly emerged. The proposed arrangement could have required crown funding for long-term renovations, staffing and security. The question was no longer simply who gets to live there. It became a question of who would pay for the arrangement after Charles was gone. William then reportedly offered a compromise. Camilla could have full use of the residence while Charles remained king, with security, staff and dignity, but the property itself would remain crown property. When Charles's reign ended, the residence would remain available for the next sovereign. At first, that compromise reportedly hurt Camilla deeply. The permanent promise Charles had made to her was gone. But eventually, the conversation moved beyond the property itself. Camilla reportedly admitted that she didn't necessarily need that particular residence. What she needed was reassurance that she wouldn't simply be discarded when Charles was no longer there to protect her. That revelation changed William's perspective. He had been focused on constitutional boundaries, financial obligations, and the future of the monarchy, but he reportedly realized that behind Camilla's demand was a very human fear. What happens to her when the person guaranteeing her position is gone? William allegedly offered another solution. Instead of using crown property, Camilla could have a privately funded lifetime residence that would provide security without tying a future monarch to a promise he or she never made. This time, Camilla reportedly accepted. William then returned to Charles with the compromise. Charles reportedly understood something painful. His original promise had been made because he wanted to erase years of insecurity surrounding Camilla, but he had promised something that potentially extended beyond his own authority. In the end, Charles reportedly accepted the revised arrangement. Camilla would continue using the residence during his reign, but she wouldn't receive permanent ownership or an automatic right to control it after his reign. The property would remain attached to the crown, and future changes would require formal consultation. For Charles, that meant accepting that his personal promise couldn't override institutional responsibility. For William, it meant accepting that protecting the crown could still hurt people inside the family. And for Camilla, it meant receiving security without obtaining permanent control of crown property. The most striking part of the story isn't really the residence, it's what the residence allegedly represented. Charles saw it as a promise to his wife. Camilla saw it as protection against an uncertain future. William saw it as something held in trust for generations of monarchs. Three people had three completely different meanings attached to the same building. That's why William's intervention became so significant in the story. He wasn't simply stopping Charles from giving Camilla a house. He was challenging the idea that one monarch should be able to make a personal promise that could financially and institutionally affect the monarchs who come after him. In the final arrangement, Charles remained beside Camilla. William didn't claim victory, and Camilla reportedly accepted the compromise. The residence stayed with the crown, her security was protected separately, and the monarchy avoided turning a private family promise into a permanent institutional obligation. Whether you see William's actions as disloyalty or duty depends entirely on where you believe the line between family and crown should be drawn. But one thing is clear from this dramatic royal dispute. The moment William reportedly stopped that document from being signed, the question was no longer just about Camilla's home. It became a question about who the monarchy ultimately belongs to, the people who occupy it today, or the institution they are supposed to leave behind.